Today I want to chat about the $1,000,000 question that for 10 years in the industry, I've heard every single shift, no matter where I worked or what customer I was interacting with, right? And this is what happens in the back. What happens in VIP, what happens upstairs, etc., right? Every single night at every single club, I would guarantee that you're hearing some version of this question from customers. And if this is one that feels like it's like getting in your way, or it makes you feel uncomfortable, or you're just not sure how to handle it to get customers on board, spending money and feeling comfortable about like the whole VIP situation, then check out some tips we're gonna go through in this video. All right, so first we wanna start with what I think is the most helpful tool around what happens in the back. And that is sort of realizing that a lot of the fears and discomfort we have around this question are not actually tied to what happens in the back. It's tied to other questions we assume are being asked. Here's what I mean. If what happens in the back is triggering like, oh God, I'm overwhelmed, or oh, this customer's gonna push past my boundaries, or this person's a jerk, or he's gonna be disrespectful, or okay, here we go again, right? That's something that's gonna read on me. It's gonna emotionally exhaust me, right? And I'm probably not gonna be my best self. And as someone that's been in the industry for a long time, I wanna acknowledge that there are boundary pushing customers, that there are folks who are asking in a way that's very targeted, and they're asking for services that you might not offer or might not be comfortable with. And that sometimes these conversations do go awry, right? That said, not every person who's asking what happens in VIP is asking you, do you offer full service? And I think sometimes that can really get lost in the club environment, because when we deal with customers that might be like difficult to find a connection point with, or who might be trying to push past our boundaries, so often we start treating everybody as if they're that customer, that problematic customer, right? Like if that guy came in 3 weeks ago and then you asked me the same question, it's understandable that I might be like, oh, like here we go again with this fucking what happens in the back question. If that's you right now, that's totally okay, and that's very fair, right? We have those reactions, it's fair, it's a way of trying to protect ourselves. But I encourage you to think of all the other things that that question can mean when someone is asking it to you for the first time. So for example, if I'm a customer and I'm gonna spend $1,000, $1,600, $2,000 for an hour with you, or $500, or whatever it is at your club, right? What are some of the things I might wanna know? Is this gonna be fun? Am I gonna get the value of my money here? Am I gonna leave here happier than I came in? Are you going to like generally pay attention to me and make me feel valued and heard and listened to, or are you gonna ignore me, right? Are you going to dance in a way that's entertaining, or are you gonna do like a 1-2 step and look away from me and check your text and leave and go to the bathroom for 30 minutes, right? Those are all questions that when I'm saying what happens in the back as a customer, I'm kind of might be looking for the answer for. I might also wanna know, how much does it cost? Where in the club is the back? What are your boundaries? What are the rules of the club? All of those can be wrapped up into this one question. So when you're hearing what happens in the back, it's helpful to just, if you're getting that overwhelmed or stressed feeling, to just take a second and check in with your nonverbals, right? Make sure your shoulders are back. Make sure you're relaxed. Make sure you're not overwhelming yourself or making this really, really uncomfortable way before it needs to go there, or like towards somebody that has done nothing other than just ask a question, right? They're going to buy a service, they want to know what that service is. We're trying to figure out what the underlying question is, right? What the real reason someone's not buying yet is, and that's the one we want to answer. That's the part we want to get to, right? We want to give them all the information they need to make a decision about going to VIP with us, okay? So here is where a lot of the other stuff, like the really practical tips in this video, are gonna come in, okay? When you're talking about the back, I think there's a couple of things that dancers always say. If you're relying on these, I'm not gonna tell you you're wrong, and I'm not gonna tell you can't make money using these lines, but what I will say is your customers hear these every single time they ask somebody what happens in the back, right? A lot of customers are repeat customers. They might be bopping around different cities, but they go to a lot of clubs. A lot of them might be asking what happens in the back, but really they just wanna like see your reaction, see how you respond. And most of what they hear is like what I call the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, right? It's more fun, it's more private, you get to have me all to yourself, or some version of like, we can do whatever we want, baby, which like you don't really mean, and he knows you don't really mean, but you're gonna say it anyway because it's something you've heard another dancer say in the past, right? So those are generally, some version of those is what customers hear. If you're getting stuck selling customers into VIP, one thing that might really help is thinking about what experiences you're selling and how you're describing them to customers. For example, if I'm going to go into the club tonight and I know that my goal is to sell VIPs, right? I don't want to be on the floor. I don't want to be doing a lot of stage shows. My goal is VIP, VIP, VIP. What is going to set me apart from the other 50 dancers that got ready and showed up to the club and also look great and can also have fun and can also go private and can also be all by yourself with you, right? Everybody else there can offer those same 4 things. So what is going to set me apart from those other entertainers, right? Entertainment value, right? So this can look like a ton of things. I'll give you some of the simplest examples and some of the more like complex, like over the top, like showwomanship stuff. So on the simpler side, right? What are some things that might set me apart? It could be the way that I dressed going into the club tonight, right? If I have a very specific look that I go for every night that sets me apart from other dancers at my club. It could be the way my stage performance is or the way my dances are, right? If I invest time into learning pole skills or practicing lap dance skills so I don't feel and sound and look like everybody else at my club. That's some of the ways to do this. It can also be the kind of conversation you can have, right? So maybe you educate yourself on some of the hobbies your customers have. If they love golf and it's a PGA Tour, like you might want to learn about golf, right? Take 30 minutes out of your week and sit down and read through what are some of the main players, right? What are some of the terms like in the industry? What are some of the things your customers care about, basically, that you can care about too? Right? Because when you're describing a VIP, it doesn't have to be, and I really encourage you not to do like a list of activities or things you can do, because that feels formulaic, that feels generic, that doesn't feel like the fantasy of like, this organically happened and this dancer's so cool and she's like no one else I've ever met in a club and she knows about all my hobbies and the things I care about, right? That's what we're going for. That's the experience we want to sell, because if you get someone to feel like listened to, cared about, like you connect, like you're not like other interactions they've had inside of clubs, it is so much easier to sell to them, and they're not going to be giving you a million objections to VIP, right? If they're feeling entertained, usually that lowers the amount of objections that you're going to be dealing with. So let's say that you know a lot about the hobbies they have, you care a lot about the things they care about, even if that's like an hour of your week where you like listen to a podcast that has to do with the industry that's coming into like town for conventions in your city. That goes such a long way. And it really, when you're offering VIP, you can make a joke about that industry. You can tell them about the sport. You can say, hey, like, you're gonna go on your own PGA tour, okay? Let's go down to the 18th hole, okay? It's in the back room, like whatever. You can make your pitches so much more specific and silly and feel really in the moment, the more you care about what your customers care about and the more you're creating performance and entertainment value, right? So that is one side of what's gonna happen in the back. Right? If you're building that connection, if you're hitting those points of entertainment, of delivering value to customers on the floor, they're going to push a lot less on is it going to be fun back there? Because they're having fun right here. Like you've already shown them that it's going to be a good time for them, right? If you want to take this even further, if you're like, okay, that works, I'm already there, but it's still like, they're still going to ask me like, what's different about VIP, right? What can I do in VIP that I can't do here? Right? Of course, you can still use your generic descriptors, it's more private, it's a little more intimate back there. But another tool you can add to your toolkit is thinking of basically different fantasies or storylines or activities that you bring into the club that are for your customers, okay? Everybody else at the club might be able to offer a dance, a sit down, a conversation, a little bit of back rub, and then a little bit more of a dance, and then the guy comes back and they renew. But not everyone at your club is gonna be like, well, it's your birthday. I'm gonna light my nipples on fire, and all your friends and I are gonna sing you happy birthday, and it's gonna be the best fucking birthday you've ever had. Are you ready? Right? Or other folks might be able to be like, okay, it's so fun back there, baby, and like, what a great time. But like, be the person that's like, you know what? I brought a game of Twister. So we're gonna pick out 4 of my hottest friends, and we're gonna play the most competitive game of Naked Twister that you've ever seen. why are we even talking about this? Like, let's go, right? There's so many more storylines and adventures you can create, right? Think about customers that go in there for like a BDSM vibe. Think about customers that go in there for like a girl next door vibe. Think about customers that go in there looking for like a two dancer experience. All of those are things you can stop and think through. And if you're thinking through them at work, that's awesome, right? But you're kind of doing improv, like you're doing everything in the moment, and it's a lot of mental energy to come up with those things on the spot every time. One thing that's super helpful for me is every like 2 to 3 months, I'll check in and be like, okay, what are like 5 to 10 experiences that I'm offering in VIP, right? Some of them might have props, right? I might like bring a Polaroid, or I might need like champagne glasses to do a specific trick for customers, right? So like now I can sell the champagne bottle, and there's a reason for it to be there other than like the club demands that it be so, right? Or it might be like a really cool pull trick that I can only do in the big pull room at our club. Like having those little gags, it sounds so silly and like salesy, but like this is a sales job. There's 50 to 100 other people on the floor who want to make money from these customers too. And end of the day, it's not just about entertaining them, right? It's about entertaining yourself, right? You are at the club day in and day out, and honestly, there is such a thing as burning out on doing VIPs. If this experience is the same every time, and if all the customer has to do and all you have to do is sort of sit in this dark room and like sort of dance and sort of talk and feel each other out. With some customers, that's so easy because you connect organically and they were an easy sale and they were gonna buy anyway. But if you're looking for the places where your business can grow, where you can be making more money, where you can be making more connections, a lot of times it is people who are harder to sell, where you're gonna have to have some explanation, some description, something they haven't seen before. And also people who are gonna be really excited about coming back because your energy is high, because you're excited to be there, because the list of things that are your VIP experiences in your head aren't the same that they were like 3 months ago or 6 months ago or even last shift. So you're going to be less exhausted, you're going to be less frustrated, and then you have better descriptors to get people to go to VIP, right? Well, I brought 3 sets of lingerie and we're going to do the filthiest photo shoot you've ever seen, right? That can work even at a no-touch club, right? It might depend on the rules of your club, your city, like of course be careful with those things, but there are just so many ideas, and truly I believe that if you are in this industry, you have creative energy, right? You are a person that thinks outside the box, and so take those ideas, take the things that are uniquely yours, and encourage yourself to come up with a show. And again, like big red sign waiver, you don't have to, and I really encourage you not to tell customers that these are like shows or like a show menu or a list, because the goal is for this to really free flow and for you to sort of in your head go through like what might work well with this person, right? Because if you pigeonhole too much, if you're like, this is the exact show that I want to give you, and this is the only thing I'm going to offer you, and you know, it's, you start doing something and it's not working, like not every customer is the same, and you can't read what everybody wants in like the first 5 minutes of an interaction. So just give yourself room to play. But the more I think you take a little bit of time to prepare outside the club, the more you're going to sound confident and excited to be in there, and the more that your customers are going to respond positively, because once they have something to hang on to as what the experience is going to be, well, it just makes everything go smoother and faster and easier, right? So those are some of the like do's that I found are really helpful in getting customers to buy VIPs and to answer what happens in the back. Now I want to go through a couple of don'ts, a couple of things that often happen in the VIP sale that I feel like get really in the way and will just like dive, like nosedive, that one, nosedive your sale. Okay, so some of the most common things that happen. One is word vomit. Okay, this is when you're having a calm conversation. All your body language is reading as like sexy and sultry and fun, and like you're present and you got that eye contact, and suddenly money comes up. You start speeding up and you start talking faster and you start just sort of like trying to feed as much information as possible, and you start getting nervous and your shoulders start going up and your face totally changes and your energy totally changes. And guess what? Like all that lovely work you did approaching this customer, building rapport with them, creating this awesome connection, it just went out the door, because when money came up, your whole attitude changed, your whole energy changed. If someone did that to you, right? If you're talking to like a sales rep at like a designer store, then you ask like, how much is it? And they're like, Well, it's like $2,500, but it's really nice, and I think like you're gonna wear it a lot. And I think like I've seen a lot of people buy it, so like it's cute, and like like once you have it, what that tells me is I should definitely not buy whatever they're selling me. That tells me like that's a bad call. They're not confident. They don't want me to buy it, right? So if that's something that you're naturally doing, if your tonality is going up or your voice is speeding up when you're talking about money or negotiating, just check in with yourself, slow it down, be the most confident person out of the two of you. He might never have been here before. He might never have gone to VIP before. He's never been to VIP with you. So it's your job to create that sense of calm confidence so that they can trust that they're going to make a good decision, right? You have to trust that first, though. You are the first person you have to sell on this, because if you're not sold on the idea that a VIP with you is worth whatever the ticket price you set on that is, customers will sense it, customers will read it, and customers will never stop pestering you about the price, about the rooms, about a bajillion questions. And really the underlying question is, I can just sense you're not confident in what you're selling, so I'm going to push back, right? So aim for like 110% confidence and carry yourself that way, because that will solve so many VIP objections. One more tip I want to give you is when you're offering pricing, when it comes to pricing and price point negotiation in VIP, experiment with going as simple as possible. Here's what I mean. If you ask me, how much is VIP? Or what does it cost to go to the back? And I tell you, VIP with me is $1,600 an hour. You're probably gonna do about 3 hours. Should we go now? Whether you can afford it and you want it, or whether you can't afford it and you're never gonna go, you have all the information you need now to make a decision. Now, if you ask me, how much is VIP? And because I don't want to get rejected yet, or because I feel like maybe if I just give you more information, you'll make a better decision, and I just go like, okay, well, an hour with me is 1,000 for me, and the club gets 1,600. If you do it in a card, it's going to be 10% more, but if you do a card, it's going to be just that amount. Also, you have to get a bottle of champagne, and that bottle of champagne is going to start at $250, but it can go up to $300. Before we make a decision, let me tell you about our half hours. Okay, our half hour is going to be it's going to be $700 for me, and the club is going to get $200. But then we have to get a bottle each time we stay in the room. So I really think like an hour is probably a better idea. But like if you really don't want to get a bottle, I guess we can go to 15-minute sections, and that's like $200 for each 15 minutes. But it's like in this one area of the club, and like you have to do pass for that, so you can use your card. And then so like it's like a little bit more. So and you also have to get 2 drinks, for one for me and one for you, and we have to do that every 15 minutes. We have lost the plot, right? That customer is not paying attention because it's too much information. They're probably drunk. They're here with their buddies. It's loud in your club. Like, why are we giving people 30 price points, right? Your business is your business. If you feel like it is helping you and you're closing more sales by giving people 4 or 5 price points at once, do what works best for you. For me, I've found that my VIPs, like my VIP pitches, are really, really short and concise. And they have a price point, they have a very quick descriptor of where we're going, and then they have like a let's go, right? Like a let's move, right? If I'm gonna ask you to do a VIP, I might say something specific, right? I'm gonna tell you one of my experiences, not a VIP. So I might be like, why don't we take my friend up there and see if we can really have a slumber party? It's gonna be 2,000 total. Is that going to be cash, or do you want to use your card? So specific. You know what the experience I'm selling is, so you can't ask me what's going to happen. You know exactly how much it's going to cost, and you know that we should go now, right? After that, we're still going to negotiate, okay? He still might ask me why is it that much? He still might ask me what if he does it on a card? He still might ask me do we have to get a bottle, etc. But I, as the dancer, part of my job to me is make everything simple, make everything easy. I found that the highest spending customers respond better to that simple, clear, easy pitch. And I found that the people who are going to argue with me about money are going to argue with me about money regardless, right? So I can give you 10 options, but what I just did is now in your head, you're trying to do that like meme math equation thing where you're trying to figure out exactly what the best deal is if you're a bargain shopper, or trying to figure out where in the club you want to be, or how much time you have till you have to go home, etc., etc. And really, my job is to simplify it, okay? The experience I'm going to sell you, okay? The amount that it's going to be, let's go now. Or get your stuff, we're leaving. Or the train is going to Funtown. Pack up, right? Or, hey, I brought my twister board. all your friends like writing. I know all my friends like writing. Can we hit it? It's gonna be X amount. Do you guys want to pay together or do you want to pay separate? Right? Like, I'm gonna give you some clue about money, very specific pitch, very specific experience you can only get with me, and we're done here, okay? And then we're gonna negotiate. Let's get into it, right? Let's go wild. Let's talk about how that's too much money. Let's talk about how that VIP in your other town was so much better and so different. Like, we can go through it all, right? And that's just practice. That's just negotiation. That's just thinking through what your responses are gonna be to those very generic things you hear every day. Right? This can include like questions about boundaries, this can include questions about money, and this can include questions about the experience, but you know you're going to get those questions every single shift. So in the same way that you can prepare for what happens in the back and how you're going to describe your VIPs, you can also prepare to deal with those objections. And if in the future you think like that might be a useful video to talk about any of those specific topics, we certainly can do one just on that. You can tell me in the comments if that would be useful. But I hope this is a useful starting place in thinking about pitching VIPs and thinking about coming up with experiences for VIPs, and then just feeling more confident and more certain when you're offering price points and when you're having conversations about the back on how you can make it a better experience for your customers and for yourself, and not get burnt out on doing the same exact VIP experiences every time. So I hope that's useful. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and drop a comment. Let us know what you want to see on our channel next. It's awesome if you subscribe. We do a lot of videos around sales for dancers, right? We have upcoming courses coming up. We do a lot of stuff with lap dances, party tricks, pole, etc. And all of that is at rackstriches.com. So go ahead and check it out. I hope this is useful, and I'll check in with you in our next video.